Intelligent people need to develop hypotheses. Hypotheses are educated guesses with the emphasis on educated. Hypotheses are not just hunches or wild guesses. Hypotheses should be based on theory that constitutes replications or extensions into new domains. They are the working assumptions and tools of all scientists, and they ensure that knowledge progresses systematically and incrementally. But hypotheses must be tested and must receive support rather than disconfirmation. An untested hypothesis is truly a mere hunch. But again, you don't have to be a scientist to construct a hypothesis. Every person or organization can employ and test hypotheses. We can all use theoretical principles in our own experience to test hypotheses and launch new endeavors to support an outcome. But do not cling to untested or disconfirmed hypotheses. That leads to calcification and dogmatic thinking. Hypotheses can be very practical. Students can try new study methods to see how they work. Business people can use beta tests and small-scale trials to see if innovative practices, new advertisements, or entrance into new markets will bear fruit. Teachers can try new techniques to increase classroom learning. Everyone can test new technologies to see if they represent an improvement over more traditional practices. And new information technologies, such as websites, Facebook pages, and electronic messaging, afford an opportunity to test the applicability of these electronic innovations to business, education, parenting, health, or recreation. Importantly, hypotheses need to be tested by gathering data, and the data need to be believed. Good hypotheses enable us to make educated guesses that have the high probability of bearing fruit. Any successful individual or organization should constantly test new ideas and practices to stay competitive and current in a rapidly changing world. But what data or metrics can be used to test our educated guesses, to confirm good hypotheses? In the following paragraphs, we will discuss the power of valid data. Collect valid data and believe it. To have an honest test of a hypothesis, data must be collected systematically, impartially, and objectively. Testing a hypothesis in innovation or new improvements to an existing process requires strong, objective data. These data metrics should rely on careful measurement to ascertain valid outcomes. For example, new drugs should result in less sickness with few side effects. New business processes should result in increased profits or productivity. New exercise programs should result in greater strength and less body fat. And new study methods should result in increased learning. The empirical data used to test such outcomes should not rest on wishful thinking, biased measurement, or intuitive impressions. We know too much about the biases of expectations to trust anything but the best empirical data. Data must be trusted even when it flies in the face of common sense or perceived truth. Always trust the data. However, the data must be comprised of valid metrics. Humans have a great ability to rationalize and mistrust data. In the 1950s, psychologists Leon Festinger, Henry Riken, and Stanley Schachter studied what would happen when people's definite predictions failed. He studied a religious cult that prophesied the world would end on a particular day. The cult members left their jobs, sold their possessions, and left their houses. They gathered in the desert and prayed together and waited for the end of the world. Of course, the world didn't end that day, thus creating great cognitive dissonance between their beliefs and the reality that the world was still around. Their book, When Prophecy Fails, Festinger, Riken, and Schachter detailed how the cult coped with the disconfirmation of their beliefs. Logically, one would think that the failure of the prediction would cause the group to abandon their religion and or their leaders, but such was not the case. The leader convinced the group that it was their prayers that produced so much light that God decided to spare the world. The outcome was rationalized while clinging to their false beliefs. Data should cause theories, hypotheses, and beliefs to be reconsidered, but such is not always the case. People will often cling to their basic beliefs and discount the data. Of course, no legitimate scientist would do that. Science is always self-correcting, and disconfirmation leads to a revision or abandonment of a theory or hypothesis. There is a lesson here for scientists and non-scientists alike. Trust reality. Believe in your data. But data must be based on sound and valid metrics. Although metrics has become a buzzword of the new millennium, the importance of sound, valid metrics cannot be overstated. In every area of human life, metrics can improve performance. Metrics are performance assessments based on accurate quantitative assessments. Metrics have permeated every area of human life. Computer chip engineers gather precise metrics on the performance of chips that will wind up in your laptop or smartphone. These speeds, measured in microsections, determine if a chipset will replace an older one or beat the speed and performance of a competitor's chipset. These assessments are not based on intuition or wishful thinking. They are based on precise metrics that calculate real-time speeds. The magnificent book and subsequent movie Moneyball chronicled the rise of the Oakland Athletics baseball team and its general manager, Billy Beane. Billy employed sabermetrics, precise baseball statistics, to measure real game outcomes. In the past, assessment of players were based on the physique of a player, the attractiveness of his wife or children, or his confidence, statistics that were largely irrelevant or intuitions that may not be associated with performance. The percentage of time a player reaches base, regardless of the method, by walks, errors, hits, or getting hit by the baseball, is actually a much more important statistic than batting average. With a low team salary that was only 25% of the wealthiest teams, Billy Beane found players with better metrics than many overpaid superstars. The result? The Oakland Athletics became one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. Now, of course, many teams are abandoning traditional baseball statistics and turning to modern metrics to assess talent and performance. Today, the best businesses use modern metrics to increase performance, profitability, and productivity. Productivity is the ratio of output to input. It can be improved by increasing output or by decreasing input. Another way of looking at this is the ratio of products to costs. Products are the desired outcome of production, and costs can be measured in time, labor, raw materials, and such. These business analytics or metrics must be conducted by every enterprise to ascertain how to maximize productivity. But once again, good data on costs such as shipping, labor, materials, time, etc. is essential. Another buzzword in research and business is big data. While big data can refer to any data set, like a national census, the presence of the internet searches, tweets, and text has made data mining a whole new frontier. Studies now can predict the start of phenomenon such as the Arab Spring, consumer trends, economic patterns, and potential terrorist attacks. Companies can use consumer and internet big data sets to manage their supply chain and inventory. However, the ability of governments and businesses to harvest this data has also raised major privacy concerns. But what does big data mean for small businesses and educational institutions? Here are some examples of useful knowledge that big data can provide. Knowing that people book tickets in the evening hours can enable ticket agencies, airlines, or hotels to have extra agents on hand during these peak times. Big data companies can help car dealers avoid high-risk buyers by accessing hundreds of data points beyond the standard credit score. The result? Companies experience fewer defaults on car loans and repossessions of vehicles. Companies with loyalty cards or memberships can mine their data to look at purchasing data, to plan inventories and sales, and to understand their target consumer. Companies can look at their online ratings and those of competitors on Yelp, TripAdvisor, Urban Spoon, and a host of other surveys to adapt to consumer demand, correct errors, and deal with complaints. Another example comes from the food industry, where big data can monitor current and future weather, shipment schedules, daily or weekly sales, social network ratings and comments, and trends in overall consumer behavior. These are but a few examples of the nearly limitless opportunities for businesses to benefit from big data. It is important for any small business to consider subscribing to a service that mines big data. Research suggests that there is an increasing big data divide, with rich companies and countries getting richer on their use of data, and poor companies and countries getting poorer because they don't have access to the insights that big data can provide. Big data has also revolutionized research and teaching. Here at San Diego State University, researchers in the visualization lab combined tens of thousands online photos to create a detailed, comprehensive map of damage from the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. In my class in health communication, we use country and county disease maps to show how economic and lifestyle choices impact disease and death from cancer, heart disease, diabetes, gunshots, and auto accidents, among others. Students then can form hypotheses why a certain disease occurs more in a given locale. Here at San Diego State and other universities, we can use software to search the entire internet to detect cases of plagiarism and other forms of academic thievery. The possibilities for education like business are endless. Big data opens up a whole new arena for investigations that were never possible in an earlier era. This presentation has suggested that the use of hypotheses and big data can benefit anyone. It is time to stop and think about your situation and how these tools can enhance you or your organization, especially in your quest to become more globally competitive. Thank you.
Thank you again.